Hi, my name is Will Shanks. I'm product manager for Universal Audio's plugins, and I'm here to talk about the Lexicon 224 today. I'm going to give you some fundamentals on how to use the 224 and also give you some special tips and tricks. The 224 can go anywhere between a really small, tight room sound to a really large, lush room sound. So in this case, I'm going to use congas to show you how to explore the various controls to tailor it specifically to the tempo and to the sound of that percussion piece. So starting out with the dry track so you can hear what we're doing here. Now I started out with the room program with all faders set to 0. Again, this will give you the tightest, smallest room sound. So the first thing I wanted to show you is the 224's decay controls. So most reverbs have a single decay control. The unique thing about the 224 and the Lexicon reverbs is that they actually have 3 controls for decay. It's what we call a split decay, where you have a bass and a mid band with a crossover between them. So this allows you to accentuate high frequencies or low frequencies in the decay time. So what I'll do now is let you hear it as short as possible. And then I'll start to play with the bass and mid controls and the crossover to allow you to hear how the thing changes and morphs based on these 3 controls. So now what I'm going to try to do is time the decay time to the tempo of the beat. And now I think I'm going to try a little pre-delay to add a little distance between the dry source and the wet. Now I'm going to play with the depth control to play with that sense of distance between source and microphone. So now I'm happy with the sound. Now I think I'll just bump down the wet to more of a dry sound, sit in the mix a little bit better. So the next thing I'd like to demonstrate is how you can use the 224 to recreate such classic sounds as you'd hear on the Blade Runner soundtrack. So I took a kick drum and I processed it with a 224, adding a couple other UAD-2 plugins to recreate that sound, just to show off what the 224 can do. So first in the chain, I used the SPL Transient Designer just to bring up the peak of this kick drum, followed by the Cambridge EQ to add some low-end frequency and roll off some of the high-end frequency. So here's the dry kick drum. And now here's the process kick drum. So in this case, what I did, I started with small hall B and used very long decay times using both bass and mid at nearly the same level. Crossover, when they're basically at the same level, is irrelevant. I basically gave it maximum treble decay to give it lots of high frequency information and a really long depth, which gives it more space. I also gave it a really long pre-delay, which creates a sort of slap effect between the dry and the wet signal. And in this case, I have the dry-wet blend set to nearly 100% wet. I had it at 99%. I should also note that none of the other settings were tweaked. Everything else is at its default setting. For my last example, I want to show you how to use the 224 to get more of an ethereal, sort of Brian Eno, Daniel Lanois sound for guitar. And you've seen me flipping open this hidden panel, so we might dabble a little bit with some of those parameters to help develop the sound. Like I said, I'm going to start with this guitar track, and here it is dry. So in this case, I'm going to use small hall A. It's probably the most famous reverb program on the 224, and it's really good at getting these ethereal sounds. What I'm starting with is a preset that was given to me by Kevin Killen, a guy that worked very closely with U2 and Peter Gabriel on some of their best-known records. So using small hall A and a very long decay time in the mid-range, you get this sound. So how did we get this sound? It really has to do with the nature of this particular program and just the long decays in conjunction with this depth control. So I'm going to play it real time and just let you hear how the thing evolves if I start morphing from this original preset. Now if I disable the chorus or the mode enhancement, it has a totally different sound. So that's another integral part of this particular effect. I'm going to turn it back on, go back to the original preset, play it again, but this time add a little bit more of the pitch shift chorusing. Thanks for watching. I hope these tips get you on your way to a better understanding of the 224. For more information, we recommend checking out the in-depth 224 manual in the UAD installer. Thanks.